Three-quarters of them were the victims of anti-government elements, many killed in suicide attacks and roadside bombs. Over the past 4 years, almost 9,000 civilians have been killed in the conflict. The Space Shuttle Discovery has landed in Florida, ending its 39th and final mission as the world's most travelled spaceship. On its final mission, Discovery delivered a new storeroom and humanoid robot to the International Space Station. It's the first of NASA's 3 spaceships to be retired, and it'll go on display in a museum. I'm joined now by Dr. Francisco Diego, a Senior Research Fellow in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at University College London. Thank you for being with us. So, what's the legacy of Discovery?
Discovery has been one of the most successful projects in astronautics, actually, after 30 years. This fleet of, I don't know, 6 or 7 space shuttles has been an amazing. I have been through the whole thing, and it has an amazing achievement. The space shuttle has been fundamental in learning how to use reusable vehicles that can land again. And that's a very efficient way of using a spacecraft, if you like. But mainly, the space shuttle has been launching satellites, recovering satellites to refurbish them, to mend them. It has been launching spacecraft like the Magellan, like the Galileo spacecraft, but mainly the Space Telescope. The Space Telescope was due to the Space Shuttle. Without the Space Shuttle, we wouldn't have the Space Telescope, and more recently, of course, we have the Space Station. Without the Space Shuttle, we couldn't have the Space Station. So it is an amazing legacy that we have.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that they're reusable. I mean, are you surprised that they've had to retire them? Obviously, there are 2 more launches, Endeavour in April and Atlantis in June, before the whole shuttle program is retired.
Yes.
Do you think it's the right decision?
Well, there is still a bit of controversy. There is a bit in the Congress. I was reading just now that there is a bit of pressure to keep the shuttle flying for at least about another 2 or 3 years until the replacement vehicle is developed. So it's not the last word, I would say. I would love to see the shuttle keep flying. But certainly, the Atlantis in June will be the last flight, as far as we can tell.
You mentioned the discussions in Congress, and it's all partly to do with money, isn't it? Because they can't decide what to do next with the replacement for the shuttle program until they know how much money they have.
Well, exactly. And also, the space station is almost completed. And once the space station is completed, the need for a space shuttle is not so important. But I really don't know if there is another kind of mission that the space shuttle could do. Certainly, the Space Shuttle Discovery, which was the one actually that launched the Space Telescope, is the most fascinating of them all, because it has flown, if you can imagine, it has flown it has been in space for 365 days accumulated, and it has flown an equivalent distance from here to the sun. I mean, almost 150 million kilometers, which is, I find it just amazing numbers.
Okay, on that tribute, thank you very much indeed, Dr. Francisco Diego.
Discovery Houston, you are go at throttle up.
Hello, this is Al Jazeera. I'm Lauren Taylor with the stories making the headlines. Gaddafi's forces have launched multiple airstrikes on Ras Lanuf, a strategically important oil city in Libya. A fuel storage facility has been hit. Most of the residents of Ras Lanuf have fled, leaving just opposition fighters behind. In Bin Jawad, rebel forces are now in the town centre, pushing Gaddafi forces to the west of the city. Earlier, the Libyan government said it had taken back the coastal town after heavy shelling there. Libyan officials have also flown to Egypt, Malta, Brussels and Portugal as part of a diplomatic blitz. The move by the Gaddafi regime may be an attempt to avoid more international sanctions. Carl Stanio-Navarro is in Malta for us.
So Al Jazeera is in a position to confirm through Brussels that Libyan diplomats are in Brussels and are speaking to the European Union. We are informed that Catherine Ashton, who's the High Representative of the European Union who takes care of all the diplomacy, is confirming with Al Jazeera that the diplomats are in Brussels and they are engaged right now as we speak.
Anti-government protesters in Yemen remain defiant despite the death of at least one man. Security forces opened fire on a crowd of demonstrators outside Sana'a University. Mostly student protesters have been camping in front of the university since mid-February. The death toll from Tuesday night's clashes between Muslims and Christians in Cairo has risen to 13 people from both sides. 140 were wounded. The violence has prompted further protests by Coptic Christians in Egypt's capital, Cairo. More than 1,000 Copts were demonstrating on Tuesday against the torching of a church when violence broke out. A Tunisian court has dissolved the party of ousted President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. The Constitutional Democratic Rally, or RCD, was suspended last month pending the court's ruling. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for a suicide attack that's killed at least 37 people in northwest Pakistan. The victims were part of a funeral procession attended by anti-Taliban fighters near Peshawar. Police said 300 people were at the funeral when the suicide bomber hit. The space shuttle Discovery has landed in Florida, ending its 39th and final mission as the world's most travelled spaceship. On its final mission, Discovery delivered a new storeroom and humanoid robot to the International Space Station. It's the first of NASA's 3 spaceships to be retired and will go on display in a museum. Coming up next on Al Jazeera Inside Story.
Muammar Gaddafi slams Western countries as they weigh the option of a no-fly zone over Libya and dismisses Libya's rebels as traitors. But as Gaddafi becomes increasingly isolated, what are his options? And as the standoff continues, would an international military intervention be the right solution? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Rida Fakhri. Calls are mounting for the imposition of a no-fly zone over Libya, but with no single nation willing to take the lead, what options lie ahead for Libya's future? Zainab Walji has more.
They say it's from the sky that they are most vulnerable. And for Libyan rebels, UN resolutions and asset freezes are not enough. They are increasing their demand on the international community to establish a no-fly zone over Libya, a move supported by the British government, though with caution.
Work is going on in NATO on the contingency planning for this, so it is certainly a practical possibility. It has to have, though, the other factors that I was mentioning earlier. It has to have a clear legal base. It has to have the necessary international support, broad support in the region itself. Now, clearly, there are elements of those things there. In terms of, as I mentioned earlier, the statement of the GCC. And clearly, the opposition forces in Libya itself have already called for a no-fly zone. So those things are practical, but the broad international support and legal base for it would also have to be there.
The White House, too, has made it clear they are considering their next move.
We've got NATO, as we speak, consulting in Brussels around a wide range of potential